Anchored text. Stella Discovers Gravity by Martin Berger. Ever since she was a little girl, Stella had loved science. She loved watching birds feed their young. She enjoyed observing squirrels hunt for acorns. She kept a notebook showing changes in the weather. She read books about earthquakes. She read magazines about space. She got her best grades in science, too. Science experiments were Stella's specialty. She loved to think up new experiments. She did experiments whenever she could, even if they didn't always work out very well. Sometimes she made quite a mess. Last year, Stella was studying crickets. She wanted to know what kind of food they liked best. She bought crickets at the pet store. She set up a cricket cage with 3 bowls inside. The first bowl had apple slices. The second bowl had banana slices. And the third bowl had lettuce. Stella left the crickets alone with the food. When she came back later to see which food they had eaten, Stella discovered that she had forgotten to put the lid on the cage. Instead of eating, the crickets had escaped. They hopped all over the house. Her mom wasn't very happy, and her dad was pretty upset. It took him hours to catch all the bugs. Stella let them loose in a local park, promising never to bring crickets into the house again. Most of Stella's experiments weren't as disturbing to her family, however. Once, she did an experiment with flowers. She wanted to figure out where they would grow best. Stella planted flowers in 3 different places outside. She planted some by the fence. She planted some by the garage. She planted some by the front door. She watered the flowers every day. She discovered that the biggest flowers grew beside the garage. Stella told her mom what she had learned, so they planted a garden beside the garage. Thanks to Stella's experiment, the flowers were beautiful. At school, science was Stella's favorite subject, of course. She liked her teacher, Mrs. Dobbs, too. One morning, Mrs. Dobbs announced that the class was going to have a science fair. Stella was so thrilled that she almost jumped out of her chair. To enter the fair, you need to do an experiment, Mrs. Dobbs explained. And you need to demonstrate your experiment to the class. The best experiment will win a prize. Stella couldn't wait to start. But first, she had to come up with an idea. It couldn't be just any idea. She wanted to win. So her idea had to be the best one. Stella started thinking about possible experiments on the walk home from school. First, she passed the park. She saw squirrels running up and down the tree trunks. Stella knew a lot about squirrels, but she couldn't think of a good experiment using them. She certainly couldn't catch one. That would be dangerous. And even if she did, she couldn't take it into the school. What if it escaped? The crickets had been enough trouble. Stella tried to think of a better idea, but her backpack made it awfully hard to think. It was so heavy. It felt like it was squashing her shoulders. It made her neck numb. Why do my books have to be so heavy? She wondered to herself. When she got home, Stella went to her room. First, she did her reading homework. Then she worked through her math homework. Finally, she started thinking about the science experiment. While she sat at her desk thinking, rain began to fall outside. That gave Stella an idea. Maybe she could do a project about rain. But she didn't know much about rain. After more thinking, she decided it was a bad idea. She couldn't take rain into school either. Rain would never win her the prize. Soon it was time for dinner, so Stella went down to the dining room. Her mom's arms were full of dishes. There was a bowl full of salad, a pitcher full of water, and a plate full of pasta. "Mom, do you need some help?" Stella asked. "Of course not," her mom replied. "I can carry all of this easily." As soon as she finished speaking, Stella's mother tripped on the leg of a chair. She staggered away from the table, trying to catch her balance while all of the dishes and the food soared into the air. They came down with a loud crash, making a terrible mess. Still, the family could not help laughing. Stella's mother began to laugh too, as Stella ran to her side. "I guess I was wrong. Can you help me clean up?" Stella picked up the dishes, while her mom cleaned the food from the floor. Meanwhile, Stella's dad ran out for pizza. Before Stella knew it, it was time for bed. The next day, Stella was supposed to help her mother shop for groceries, as they did every weekend. This week, Stella didn't want to go. She didn't want her planning for the science fair to be interrupted, But she knew her mom needed the help. While she and her mom were shopping, Stella looked around for possible ideas. In the produce section, Stella tried to think of a project involving fruits or vegetables. Apples were her favorite fruit, but they weren't very exciting. Once an apple had fallen from the tree in their yard and hit Stella in the head, but Stella didn't want to hit people in the head with apples. That wouldn't win her any prizes. Next was the canned food aisle. Stella saw a huge tower of canned beans. Towers. That was a great idea. She could do an experiment about towers, but what? As she looked at the cans, Stella noticed that one can looked crooked. She reached out to fix it. As she straightened the can, a few other cans wobbled. Then the whole tower shifted. In the blink of an eye, the tower collapsed. Stella helped the grocery store clerks pick up the cans. Stella's mom helped too. So many people helped that it took no time at all. Together they rebuilt the tower of cans. The whole time, Stella wondered what could have caused the tower to fall. After all, she had only touched one can. She decided that a tower project wasn't a great idea after all. Finally, Stella and her mom finished their shopping. When they were leaving the store, Stella saw one of their neighbors, Mrs. Carr. She was pushing a huge cart full of groceries. "Hi, Mrs. Carr," Stella called out. She raised her hand and waved. Mrs. Carr let go of the cart to wave back. Suddenly, the cart began to roll away. It sped down the slope of the parking lot. Mrs. Carr could not stop it. Stella chased after the cart but couldn't catch it before it hit a parked car. The car was a little dented. At least the groceries were fine. All the excitement was too much for Stella. How was she supposed to think of an idea for the science fair? There was too much dropping and crashing going on. She needed some quiet to think. The day of the class science fair approached, yet Stella struggled to find an idea for her project. She thought of washing machine projects. She thought of shoe projects and rubber ball projects. She thought of vacuum cleaner projects. She thought of cooking projects, chemistry projects, and painting projects. She even thought of a project with bags of rice. But none of her ideas seemed good enough. Stella figured she would never win a prize. She was about ready to give up. Her mom noticed how unhappy Stella was. She wanted to help her daughter, so she gave Stella some advice. "You've been working so hard to come up with an idea," she said. "Maybe you should take a break and rest your mind." So Stella did. The backyard was Stella's favorite place to relax. She sat in the sun with her eyes closed and listened to the birds. Suddenly she heard a strange noise from the neighbor's yard. Whack! Stella quickly turned to look and saw a tennis ball rising into the air on the other side of the fence. Then the ball fell back down. Whack! The ball rose up again. Then it fell as before. This went on for several minutes. Stella started to think about the ball. What made it go up into the air? That was easy. Someone was hitting it, probably with a tennis racket. But what made the ball fall back down? She remembered something she had read in a science book. Gravity is the force that attracts everything to Earth. Gravity even holds people onto Earth. Without gravity, everyone would float off into space. As she thought about this, Stella got a fantastic idea. Her project would be about gravity. Stella began to laugh. The idea had been right in front of her all the time. Gravity made her school books feel heavy. Gravity made rain fall from the sky. Gravity made her mom fall when she tripped. Gravity made the dishes and the food fall down, too. Gravity made the tower of canned beans in the supermarket fall. Gravity made Mrs. Carr's shopping cart roll down the hill. And gravity would make an awesome experiment for the science fair. Happy with her idea, Stella went straight to work. She made an amazing display. It explained what gravity was and how it worked. She tested to see how quickly different objects fell. She even provided tennis balls and other objects that people could use to prove what she had discovered. Gravity is everywhere. At the end of the science fair, Mrs. Dobbs announced the winner. Stella won first prize. She carried her new trophy home in her backpack, but it didn't feel heavy at all.